Yo, 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 yo. What's up, everybody? It's your boy, Allan, and welcome back to another exciting hold up, episode of Allan's Anatomy, here where we learn anatomy. Yeah, let's get it. Um, and today I'm just gonna have this video dedicated to the infamous, everybody's favorite temporal bone, right here. Right here. And I also got the cut model as well, right here. And pretty much, it's pretty, honestly, it's the same thing. It's just a little bit more things added to the cut model as opposed to the just disarticulated model here. But let's just dive right into it. It's not too bad. This won't be long. Um, so the very first thing that you want to notice is that there's two regions to the temporal bone. You have this region here that looks like a log all around. And this is my petrous region. Petrous just means like petrified, like stone, rock. And that's why when you feel it, well, at least this model, if you feel it, it feels very like hard, like a rock, basically. And you have another region over here, this little region over here. And you can see it from this side as well. So this is my squamous region. Squamous. Some people say squamous. I say squamous. I don't know. But those are your two regions of your temporal bone. And you have a lot of different structures associated with those regions. And let's just start from the inside. So how it sits, so this will be my inside area here, all of this, and this will be my outside. So actually, let's start on the outside. Let's switch it up. So I wish I had my skull so you guys can see how this looks. But if you go look at a skull, um, what you're gonna see is this structure here. This here, and it's gonna be leading towards your zygomatic bone. So anything that leads toward a bone, you already know what it's called, process. And so this will be my zygomatic process that's leading toward the zygomatic bone. Um, and if you go more posteriorly from it, you're gonna encounter this little bony protuberance here. So this is my articular tubercle. So this articulates with the mandible, basically. That's hence the name, how it gets the name. And I guess you can see it better when I hold it like this, but this little part here is protruding. It's my articular tubercle. This hole that you see here, this is my external auditory meatus, or you might hear some people say external acoustic meatus. It's all the same thing. So here's that part here. This little lump here, that looks like a little lump. This is my mastoid process right here, and we're gonna see more of it once we look at the cut part to it. So mastoid process, and this part here that looks like it's elongated coming down. This is my styloid process right there. And if you think about how, back as a kid, you used to have like a DS, the stylus, it kind of reminds me of that when I first looked at it. So this is my styloid process. And you can have a clinical associated with that, like Eagle syndrome, when you have like elongated styloid, basically. And that can, mess up some nerves in that area, some vessels. Um, so if I flip this and I look down here, this little depression I got. So kind of go back from that articular tubercle, going, a little bit more back posteriorly, immediately. I can see this little depression here. And this is where my mandible kind of just sits in. So this is my mandibular fossa here. So just imagine the mandible sitting in here. So it's articulating with the tubercle, and it's also sitting in this fossa or this depression. And I think that's really it for the outside parts. Oh, one more thing. Never mind. So if I flip it to the bottom surface where the styloid process, so if I flip it this way, you're going to encounter this foramen here. And it's between the styloid process and the mastoid process. So it kind of gives you what it's going to be called. So this is my stylomastoid foramen. This here, right there. And what's going to course through that is your facial nerve, baby. So we're going to see that later on in this model in the back. So just keep that in mind when you're going about learning these models. And now I'm going to the inside area. And so, like how we had on the outside, we had an external auditory meatus, external acoustic meatus, same thing. what we're gonna see on the inside, this hole here is my internal acoustic meatus. And what's going through this? You have facial nerve, you have your vestibulocochlear nerve, and you also have your labyrinthine artery. So you have pretty much three things going through there. Um, so that's really important to know. Like I said on that one page where it tells you about like nerves and stuff and vessels coursing through different foramen, you want to make sure you know this for like the test, especially for like the lecture portion. And then you have another hole more anteriorly from that. So if you can see here, this hole right here, it's kind of like at the tip of the petrous region. So here, see this? If I put my let me see where my probe go. If I put my probe through it, as you can see, it comes out the other end, like that, like that. So this structure is called my carotid canal. So your internal carotid artery courses through there, where my nail was just in. So it courses through there. So from the tip of the petrous region, you can see that carotid canal, one part of it, and from the bottom here, you can see that petrous region also. I mean, not the petrous region, but the carotid canal also. So there's two different areas you can see it at. And you want to make sure you know that. And so, like I did with that nail, as I put it through, is if you have like a probe, it also works. It's like the only thing you can push all the way through on this bone model. Um, let's see what else you has on your objective list, or make sure I cover everything. Oh, so we did this in an earlier video, like the grooves for superior petrosal sinus, groove for greater petrosal sinus, lesser depressant for trigeminal ganglion. So pretty much with the grooves, your groove for your superior petrosal sinus is going to be at the very tippity top. I said tippity top of this bone, and so you see where this plastic little structure is. I'm trying to get the lighting right. There's going to be like, you might have to see this in person, but there's this like little groove at the top, and that's that groove for that superior petrosal sinus coursing at the very top of this. And if you look at that one model in lab that shows like all the sinuses in blue, you're gonna see a blue structure coursing over the top of this as well. And then you have the groove for the greater and lesser petrosal sinus. So for those, there's this little not mnemonic, but saying we used to have in neuro. So greater Peter lacerates holes. So greater petrosal lacerates because he's going to be coursing toward this thing called foramen lacerum. So in a living person, that foramen isn't visible, but in like these skull models that you see in lab, you can see that foramen, and you can't really see this foramen on this bone because you don't have all the pieces together to make it. But basically, that groove for the greater petrosal is going to be coursing toward foramen lacerum, and it's the same thing for lesser petrosal, but that one courses toward like foramen spinosum, foramen ovale, somewhere in that area. And if you look at a skull model, it's going to make a lot more sense. So if you see me in lab, come get me, show me, bring a skull over and be like, can you show me those grooves? And I'll be more than happy to help you. The depression for the trigeminal ganglia. And like I said, this is another thing you kind of want to look at when you look at a full skull, because you see this area right here. Right here. Looks like, oh, I swear my phone keeps falling in these videos. It's crazy. Oh, it just fell again. Hold up. Let's see. Let's see. So basically how it looks here, you see this little area where it looks like something could be sitting here. So that's pretty much where like the sphenoid bone sits. And you can imagine like the little wing. So spinosum ovale would be somewhere in this area. Well, trigeminal, it has all those three different branches. So that mandibular division is going to be coursing through that foramen ovale. And so the trigeminal basically sits like right here in this area. It's like not really like a structure, but it's more like an area for it. Um, Mandibular fossa, we did that. Mastoidite, articular tubercle. Oh, jugular foramen versus jugular fossa. So foramen, it's going to be making a full circle. Well, in order to see that very clearly, you're going to need multiple bones associated so you can create that circle for like the jugular vein to come through, internal jug to go through. But the jugular fossa is like right here in this area. So this little area here, this little depression, this jugular fossa. And like I said, you want to have multiple bones in order to see the full jugular foramen. And that's your temporal bone. And it's not, honestly, it's not the hardest thing in the world. And I'm trying to make sure I got everything covered. Yep. Next up on the list is the cut temporal bone, as you can see here. And for this one, it's not too bad. Um, Pretty much it's the same things that we did earlier. I know there's one of these cut temporals where you can actually see the greater and lesser petrosal nerve coursing right here. So you might want to get your hands on that in lab. I couldn't find it when I went in, but I think it should be in there from what I remember. Another thing that's important is this artery that you see here. This artery in red. Hold on, can I take this off? Let me see. 1 second, y'all. Hold up. Oh, actually came off. Let's go. So this red artery that you see here is your middle meningeal artery coursing through. And you see how it's red in there in the carotid canal? So that's where that internal carotid artery courses through, right there. And then this purplish part is that jugular fossa. And then when you have the other bones associated with it, that's going to be my jugular foramen. So a few differences, besides those, pretty much all the structures are the same on the disarticulated versus the cut. The only thing that's different is you notice these nerves coming out. So you see there, and you see this nerve here. So remember what we called this foramen at the bottom? That's between the styloid process and the mastoid process, that stylomastoid foramen. So you see this nerve coming through? Well, that's that facial nerve that we were talking about earlier, coursing out right there. And then this other nerve here, this little greenish, yellowish tint nerve that we see there, this is, I said this like, I don't know why I said it like that. This is my quarter tympani. It's going to be coursing through what's called the petrotympanic fissure. And that's, so pretty much this depression area here, it's like where my mandible sits. And this little line, this little fissure, that you see it here coming out, that's my petrotympanic fissure. And that's my quarter tympani coming out. And once you open it, this is why this is the cut version. You can open it, and you can see that quarter tympani from the inside right there. Right there. This little membrane here, it was a full membrane circle, but you can just imagine, and I put my nail through. That's that external acoustic meatus. And then that clear part that you see around here, that's my tympanic membrane, that little clear substance. And normally it's not supposed to be popped like this. So I don't know what happened here, but somebody had a blown out tympanic membrane. It's crazy. That's what happens when you listen to music too loud. I sound like an old man. Hold up. And so basically what you're gonna see is a bone attached to the tympanic membrane. It's the first ear ossicle that you're going to see attached. I don't know if you guys can see it in here. There's a larger ear model in lab that's really good for seeing all of this. But the first ossicle attached to the tympanic membrane is your malleus. So you're going to have your malleus attached directly to the tympanic membrane. Attached to the malleus is what's called your incus. So this bone here. And it kind of looks like a little I was about to say mallet, but hammerish looking structure. But attached to that, attached to your incus is going to be your stapes, and you can't really see it, but it's on this model. It's like hidden deep in here. It's like right in here, right there. That'd be your incus, and like I said, once I bring this to lab, you can see a better close up view of it. But here we see the facial nerve going through like the facial canal area. And then on the opposite side, we see it coming out of the internal acoustic meatus, like right there. So you see the facial in two spots there, and you also see it there. And then, so this region here is my mastoid process. So this large giant pocket on either sides there and there are my mastoid air cells. Let's see, what else do we have here? We have our semicircular canals. I don't think they're on this model. They're on a different model. Like I said, get that big ear model out, and you can see them pretty good. Like they're actually semicircular. I wish I could bring it, but I think that's too. I don't think I can bring that one out. Let's see. Let's see. Facial canal. We did that. Zygomatic. Mastoid antrum. Tensor tympani. Okay. So basically, I don't know if you guys can see this really well. If you look closely here, what you're gonna see is like a muscle. Dang, I don't think you guys can see it really good. Come find me in lab and we can go over it. I'm gonna have a updated video. I'm gonna try to update it another video with the bigger model. But there's this muscle that courses around here. That's your tensor tympani muscle, and like right below it, inferiorly, you're gonna have this like tube area, and so that's gonna be like your eustachian tube or your auditory tube, or AKA your pharyngotympanic tube. Pharyngo. I always have trouble saying it. Pharyngotympanic tube. So it has three different names. You pick your poison, whatever you prefer. So that's what you're gonna see on that large air model. That muscle and that tube. Your additus and your additus to mastoid antrum and your mastoid antrum. So if you look like right here-ish, this would be like the additus to your antrum, like this area here. Your mastoid antrum is like this area around here. Um, but it's more. I guess you learn more about it in your lab portion. I mean, not lab, but lecture portion. Lecture, they go into more details. I'm sure you guys. I don't know if you guys have made it to ear yet, but once he explains that, it's gonna make a lot more sense. Um, but what I really recommend for this model is to get familiar with the nerves and what they course through. Like I said, that page in the notes is very helpful. Um, and also, here it is. So remember how I was talking about the superior petrosal sinus, the groove. So here's the superior petrosal sinus right there, and it's going to course on top of the petrous region. That's what you see in blue right there. But yeah, definitely get your hands on that giant ear model because it's going to help you see a lot more of these structures and a lot better. Like the semicircular canals, you're going to see a lot better, and like the malleus incus stapes, you're going to see 10 times better than on this model. So that's the temporal bone. Thank you guys for watching. And I believe that's all the skull bones. Really, yeah. I think you guys have made it. Let's give a clap. Let's give a clap, y'all. But hope you guys have a fun time in anatomy. I know you guys final is Friday. This is the finish line. You guys have made it through so far, and you just got to finish strong. I've been in y'all shoes at one point, and now I sound like an old man, like an old teacher or something, talking to y'all. But you guys can do it. I believe in y'all. Get her done. But thank you guys for watching.